don't want to give any spoilers.
I know. I'm like, oh my gosh, so serious.
Countdown timer. All right. Welcome everybody to Omniscient Office Hours, where we bring on top-tier guests, practitioners in content marketing to walk through interesting frameworks, insights, experience in the field. And today we're having Ashley Foss talking about building a content playground. So we'll wait a couple minutes as everybody rolls in, but as we're starting out here, for an icebreaker, I'd love if you could use the chat and state your name, maybe your job title, where you work, where you're based, and fun question, where do you work from most frequently when you work from home? Is it an office? Do you work from your kitchen table like I do? The backyard, outdoors, patio? Do you prefer to be in an office? Where do you prefer to work? Do you go to a coffee shop? So if you could ask that, that'd be amazing, or answer that, that'd be amazing. For myself, I'm Alex Burkett, the co-founder of Omniscient Digital. I'm based in Austin, Texas, but I travel all the time. And I mainly work from this kitchen table. And I would say it's like half the time because I work from coffee shops a lot as well as from airports and the road. Okay, so housekeeping before we get into the show. Today's workshop is going to be recorded and shared along with slides and any supplementary materials. If you have questions, when you have questions, please use the Q&A button at the bottom right of your window to submit a question, and we'll address them at the end. All right, so introducing Ashley. Ashley Foss is a marketer, writer, and speaker by day, and a singer, actor, and fitness fiend by night. Her work has been featured in Time, Forbes, and the Journal of Brand Strategy, and she shared insights with audiences at Harvard Business Review, Inbound, and Marketing Profs. She works for Atlassian, a collaboration software maker on a mission to unleash the power of every team. All right, take it away, Ashley.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I see there's somebody from Fort Worth. I grew up in Carrollton, if you were familiar with that suburb of Dallas. So super excited to be here. Excited to see another Bay Area person. Hi, Amy. Nice to meet you. Swings, obviously. So yes, today we're going to talk a little bit about content strategy, and I want to open things up with a little bit of an odd question, but I appreciate that you're already humoring me in the chat, and that is, what is the best piece of playground equipment? So looks like Carissa says swings, Amy says the swings, obviously. We've got a little bit of sass in that answer here. Let's see. Shannon, what you got? Tire swing. Alex, the tire swing. Okay, Emma. We've got, man, swings, consensus. You guys are about to ruin my whole talk track here. I'm going to have to pivot on this. Okay, monkey bars. I've asked this question in other contexts, and somebody always sarcastically yells out the park bench. And I'm like, listen, we love a good park bench. So you're probably asking yourself, yeah, monkey bars are also dope. Yeah, very good. Thank you. So you're probably asking, why am I asking you about content and playgrounds and all of these things when I'm about to do this very professional presentation? And so we're going to get there. But for now, let's pretend that you fell off those monkey bars, you hit your head, and we are now in a place where we are talking about the linear funnel. I know, very stressful, hard turn, but don't worry, I'm going to bring it back around. So at its core, the linear funnel is 3 phases: awareness, consideration, and decision. And somewhere in there, some marketer pulls out their editorial calendar and says, I'm going to do 2 pieces of content in awareness, 2 in consideration, 2 in decision. That's 6 pieces of content published once per month. I now have 6 months of content strategy. Yes, I know people are very upset about this. We're back at the linear funnel, right? And I hope most of you are shaking your head and saying, that's not how you do content strategy. It's more complicated than that. And in fact, you are correct. These are the Google image results for the linear funnel. And you'll notice we've got extra phases in there. We've got it turned on its side, right? So yes, everyone laughs. We seem to know that it's more complicated than that. We gotta do more than that. And so we've come up with the looping decision journey, right? Now, at its core, it's 4 phases: awareness, consideration, purchase, and some sort of upsell, cross-sell, retention that for some reason drops us back into the awareness phase, which is a little weird, but never mind. We're smart marketers here. So now I'm going to add 2 additional pieces of content in that upsell, cross-sell, retention phase. 8 pieces of content that we've got published once per month. I now have 8 months of content strategy, right? Good job, marketer. Now, again, you're all shaking your head saying that's not how it works. It's more complicated than that. And in fact, you are correct. These are the Google image results for the looping decision journey. Now, there's a bunch of terrifying stuff here, but I got to be honest. For me, the most terrifying image is down there on the bottom right. It's the Mobius, right? How many of you have ever been stuck in the infinite loop of sales and marketing content? It's terrifying. So I decided we need a new model, and I got very excited because I thought I had solved it. And it's this piece of equipment. In the United States, we call this a jungle gym. And in theory, it's a lot better, right? Like you can kind of go up and down. But again, let's be honest. For those of you who have kids or nieces and nephews, you know there's two objectives on the jungle gym. One is to get to the very top, and two is to go across the middle without touching the hot lava below. And so the problem with this is that it's still me as a marketer forcing you as an audience to go on the journey that I want you to go on. And as promised, I'm bringing it back around to the playground. What's the best piece of playground equipment, right? We've got the monkey bars, we've got the swings, we've got the park bench. What's the best piece, best way to play on the playground? Is it to go slides and then is it to skip the monkey bars altogether? Is it to only play on the monkey bars? And for those people who did say the park bench, are the people sitting on the park bench using the park in the wrong way? Of course not. And so what we see here is that as marketers, we need to treat the buyer's journey as a playground. People can enter and exit as they please. They can go in any order, and they can engage with content the wrong way. So what do I mean by engaging with content the wrong way? Let's take pricing as an example. So pricing is traditionally considered a bottom of funnel or purchase level discussion. But I actually recently had a boss who said, hey, we need to solve this problem. And so I think you should buy this tool to solve this problem. How much budget do you need? I have no idea how much budget I need, right? So I start Googling around. I find some of the big players in the space, and I start reaching out to say, can you give me a ballpark on the pricing for this many licenses at this service tier? And several of them came back and they said, oh, we need you to download this white paper. Oh, you need to book a demo. I don't even have budget yet, right? So I need you to pop me all the way up into that awareness phase so I can secure budget. So I finally get some pricing. I get my budget. I get on these calls. And for me, I come in and I say, I'm bought in on this problem. I'm bought in on solving it with a tool like yours. Here's my budget. Sell me your solution. And then they tried to pop me all the way back up again to the top of the funnel, right? So they refused to put me where I already was, which I'm aware I'm in consideration, like I am ready to buy. And they were still trying to tell me I needed to download a white paper, right? So that's not how people buy. So if we are not going to align our content and editorial calendars to funnel stages, if we're going to have this playground mindset, how the heck do we do that? So I want to introduce a couple of narrative and distribution frameworks. And so the narrative framework is actually going to focus on content depths. So at the conceptual level, you're talking about the what and the why of the idea. And you're frame up and understand the problem space. At the strategic depth, you're talking about the process, tools, and key knowledge components that must be included to make those conceptual ideas reality. So this is helping your audience think about the solution space and come up with criteria for the solution. And it's also equipping them to do their own research. And finally, the tactical level. So this is the prescriptive, step-by-step, nitty-gritty instructions, the daily habits and tasks that need to happen to make the strategic and we want just waiting here because I noticed that my video disappeared. So I'm going to give it a second. Okay, we're back. I see Carissa is typing. I'm going to give it just a second. I was frozen. Okay. Looks like I'm back. Sorry about that. So distribution. First are asset types. So this could be written, visual, audio, interactive content, long form, short form, live, recorded. I see this frequently, right? Where the blog team thinks everything is a blog, or the video team thinks everything is a video. We want to open up that mindset and think holistically about the assets that we could deliver. Next, the channel and the platform. So this is your mix of paid, owned, and earned channels, and it can be a place to host content and a place to share content. Particularly on social media platforms, they're now wanting you to host all of your content there. So if you've seen LinkedIn articles, for example, or if you're familiar with Instagram Reels, they really want you to host and share that content. And finally, metrics. So reach versus engagement versus click-through rates. And the big thing I want to call out here is that all assets and all channels do not need to accomplish all things at all times, right? It's going to be really hard for you to optimize for in-feed engagement and also CTR, right? How am I going to get you to engage in this conversation and talk to me in the comments while also forcing you to go off the platform? So make sure that you're pairing your metrics, your channels, and your assets correctly for each audience. So once you've done that, you'll be able to fill out a table that looks something like this. You'll have your topic, you'll have the depth you're going to cover it, potential asset types, and this could be multiple assets. You could do a long form blog and a short form video, and then the outlets for each of those. So what does this look like in the real world? So in my bio, I say that I am a fitness fiend. And so I love to give this example from a fitness perspective first. So what does it mean to be healthy and fit? Now, most people would agree it is some combination of diet and exercise. But you're going to answer this question very differently if you're Runner's World versus Muscle and Fitness versus Yoga Journal. So personally, I really enjoy bodybuilding workouts. I like to do weightlifting. So let's answer this question as if we are Muscle and Fitness. So at a conceptual level, you would say you're healthy and fit if you have big, strong muscles and a high protein diet. At the strategic level, you might talk about the value of compound lifts or how to have good form. And you might talk about different sources of protein or fast versus slow digesting proteins. And finally, at the tactical level. So this is your 10 tips to build bigger biceps or 5 recipes for chicken dinners tonight. Now, of course, this gets a little more difficult in the B2B and B2C world. So I want to show some real world examples from other companies that are a little bit more B2B or SaaS focused for folks who are in that world. So first, this tactic of content pairing. So I love this example from Canva. They are a design company and they're trying to democratize design. And you'll see here that they, when I took this screenshot at least, hold the #1 organic search result for brochure design. And you'll see here it says free online brochure maker, design a custom brochure. And so when you click into this, they've got a mix of strategic and tactical level content. So they're talking about core design principles, how to think like a designer, how to implement designs in a way that will make your brochure nice. And then when you click that purple button, it takes you directly into the product and they've got templates. So from a tactical perspective, they're walking you through and saying, okay, here were the design principles that we showed you at the strategic level. Now we're going to help you implement them at the design level. And I actually love this because it gives you the opportunity to play around with the product without committing. And then if you want to, if you don't already have an account, you can sign up for a free account or to download or save your designs, or you can just click out if you decide, hey, not ready to commit yet. Next, this example from Atlassian. So we have a microsite called the Agile Coach. And here we pair a mix of conceptual, strategic, and tactical level content talking about how to implement Agile practices in your organization. And we've got this in multiple different media types. So we've got long form blogs, which allow people to read in depth and also help us rank from an SEO perspective. And then we've got short form videos in case people want to understand by watching and consuming videos. And then we actually pair this in some cases with product level content. So I also love this tactical to tactical pairing that we have where we've got actual product managers and designers showcasing different features that they've built in the products. We post those short form videos on YouTube, and then we pair that with an Ask Me Anything session in our community. And so people can actually ask people, hey, product manager that built this feature, why did you do that? Or how does it work? Or how can I use it? And so we're giving people that one-to-one experience and also giving them an opportunity to explore at scale. And then this final example of content pairing is from Duarte. So in this case, we're actually pairing a mix of strategic and tactical content. So Duarte is a communication design and training firm. And so we posted something on LinkedIn talking about the value of adding humor to your presentation and some different types of humor and why humor is important. We then paired that with an ebook that we published on SlideShare. And so it was giving very tactical examples of different types of humor. And so we used a mix of comedians, TED Talks, and corporate folks who had given different presentations and the type of humor that they used. So we published one on SlideShare, we published it, and then embedded it back into the LinkedIn article and cross-linked the two. So you had that ability to pop up to the strategic level to understand, hey, here's different types of humor and when you can use them. Or you could pop down to the tactical level to say, I very specifically want to do this. So it's not just taking content depths and saying, oh, okay, conceptual equals awareness. No, it is genuinely talking about the different depths of the idea. Next, republishing content. So we've done this across a number of different outlets, including LinkedIn, DZone, and some syndication partners. So how do we do this? We pair this with our content pairing tactics. So for example, you can do this by pairing a problem and solution. So you can frame up the problem on one site and then link to a piece that details the solution on another site. So I love this example from Adrienne, who at the time was an editor in the Muse. And she talks about how she had thrown away a resume from a candidate. And it turns out that this person had been referred by an employee. And so the employee was like, hey, why aren't you interviewing my referral? So she digs the resume out of the trash, interviews the candidate, ends up hiring them. And so she frames up, how do you create a resume in a way that doesn't get thrown in the trash? And then it links over to a long form article on the Muse talking about different resume tips and tricks. Next, case studies and research. So here you can frame up the problem, so what it is and why it matters, and then also have alternate pieces or alternate asset types talking about the solution. So here's how we solved it. And then you can cross-link those with proof points. So Aubrey Blanche, Atlassian's former head of balance and belonging, posted a conceptual level piece of content talking about why we ran a sentiment on diversity and inclusion in tech, and talked briefly about why this problem is important and our methodology for the research. And then she paired this with a few insights from the report and a link to download the PDF, which was actually free and ungated on our site. And then finally, you can just straight up republish content. So take your existing long form content, republish it on another site with a call out and a link to the original piece. So in this case, you want to make sure that you've marked the piece of content on your site as the canonical link so that it'll show up in the Google search results. So we've done this several times on DZone. In this case, we're trying to reach a technical audience, and DZone is perfect. They've got a number of engineers and product managers and team leads. And so you'll see here, we published this piece on culture and capabilities for DevOps. And then down there in the orange box, you'll see published at DZone with permission of Krishna Sai, who is an author from Atlassian. And then you can see the original article here, which links back to the Atlassian content. And the Muse has also done this. They have a number of syndication partners. So I've published a number of career-focused articles on the Muse. And then they actually have partnerships with Forbes, Time, and Mashable. And so this is great because it gives me as the author multiple different links to share. It gives them more bang for the buck and extended shelf life on the content. And obviously for the syndication partners, it starts to build that trust and reaching a new audience. Now, it's not just long form content that's changed, it's also social content. So I love this example from Chewy. They are actually a consumer brand, but this person shared on LinkedIn a story of calling customer support about a defective item. And in the background, the customer support rep heard a child crying and said, oh, do you have a baby? And he said, yes, we just brought home our first child. And so when they sent a replacement item, they also sent a little onesie and a book. What pet should I get? And so he was very touched and said, oh, it was so thoughtful, and you've really built this connection with me in a personal moment. Now, I got to be honest, guys. I get a little frustrated when I share this example. Speaking of dogs, goodness. So I get a little sad when I share this example because they have puppies, and most of us don't have puppies, right? Like, how the heck is a boring tech brand or a boring manufacturing brand or a boring insurance brand supposed to do this, right? Well, we did just that on Atlassian. So we noticed that somebody was tweeting about status page. Now, status page is usually used for things like incident management or outages. If you've ever had something where you're like, why can't I get into my email? Maybe Gmail is down. Status page would help with that. And you'll notice this fellow says, I'm doing some on-call work right now, a new family team member on the way. And so it says, this might be the last time my wife and I experience downtime. And so our social media care team said, oh my gosh, we love this so much. And he was reporting live from the hospital as if he was an on-call manager about the birth of his child. And so we sent him a swag code to buy a onesie for the new edition and said, we are eagerly awaiting the arrival of the latest engineer. And so this ability to be part of the big moments of your audience's life, that's how you start to build that brand trust and start to build those connections beyond just a funnel aligned mindset. Events, right? Events are finally back in person, which is amazing. And how many of you have been flooded with, I'm at booth 123, visit us at booth 123, come to booth 123. And you're like, I'm not even at the event. You're just spamming my Twitter feed or my LinkedIn feed. Stop, right? So we actually took a moment to connect an online and an offline event. So this was at AWS reInvent with Polera. It's a cloud access security broker that has since been acquired by Oracle. So very staid and super technical brand. And so what we did is we placed an Amazon tap inside a locked case with a bowl of what looked like identical keys next to it. And so if you drew a key and it unlocked the case, you won the tap. Now, being a security-focused booth at a conference with a lot of security professionals, a number of people said that they didn't think there were any working keys in the bowl. So every time somebody won, we would ask if we could take a picture and post it to our Twitter feed and also tag them on Twitter. And so anytime somebody, skeptically said nobody was winning, I would just turn and say, look, follow us on Twitter. Here's a person who's winning. So that's how we connected the offline event to our online presence. But how did we connect our online presence to the offline event? So we created an ebook talking about cautionary tales, so different security fails that our product had actually helped solve. And so we published that on SlideShare, and then we also had a printed ebook at the offline event. And so throughout the event, we were sharing these stories with the link to download that ebook. We also included this as a follow-up. So when we scanned people's badges, we said, hey, we'll email this to you. You can pick up the physical item, or you can just check your email after the event. And so because we had made that connection with the booth, with social media, and with that ebook, we had substantially higher open rates and substantially higher click-through rates on our post-event email comms. And finally, this example from Atlassian. So we launched an update to our flagship product, Jira, and we actually had PMs go in and directly start responding to people on Twitter. And you can see this is a real screenshot. It says, I like this trend of PMs directly answering some questions, direct accountability and direct feedback. Is this you answering, or is this an official thing at Atlassian? And you'll notice throughout the screenshots, it's both. We have that personal connection one-to-one, and we do also have the brand handle engaging as well. And so this is not scalable, right? But it's that one-to-one connection, it's that trust building. And in this case, it was shifting that perception and that sentiment. So that brings me to measurement, right? How do we measure all of these different things? And so everybody is obsessed with CTR, right? The click-through rate. How many people came to my site? How many people clicked the button? CTR, CTR, CTR. But platforms are greedy and people are lazy, right? LinkedIn wants you to stay on LinkedIn, and people want to get value right where they are. And so in this case, we want to think holistically about our measurements. So on video, things like YouTube views, subscriber growth, and then obviously entrances and referral traffic. Brand paid search, how are you competing against your competitors in those search results? Organic traffic, this is your standard website traffic and looking at those conversions. And then finally, for social media, looking at follower growth, in-feed engagement, app mentions, and those types of things. So I love this example from the Agile Coach. We actually had a little bit of a scuffle. Somebody had posted something about decimal points for story estimation in some release notes. And so we actually wrote a long form article about kind of our position on estimation. And then we hosted a roundtable with several experts. And so we recorded that. We then posted that video on YouTube. We embedded it with an Ask Me Anything session so people could actually speak to the professionals in our community. We then embedded that link and video back into the long form article. And then we gave it out as social posts for all of the speakers who were involved. And so here you can see we've got one asset that got reused in multiple different ways and was reshared in a way that you could connect both in the comments or in the community, or you could just engage asynchronously. So I love this quote from Jay Kunzo, and it says, "Marketing is no longer about grabbing attention. It's about holding it." Today's best marketers understand marketing isn't about who arrives, it's about who stays. And so when we think about this in the context of the ideal customer journey, we realize that it used to be about as few touch points as possible to rush you to a purchase. But now we recognize that it's about these seamless handoffs, right? In the playground, you can play for hours. They entertain children with the same pieces of playground equipment day after day. And it's because those children can design their own journey. And in that same way, we want to create that smart, seamless journey for our audience. So I'll leave you with this: the tenets of building the playground. Delight your audience. Focus on creating quality content that engages the audience at each touch point. Next, build the relationship. So the long-term affinity for the brand is more important than driving a single transaction on a landing page. And finally, influence at every touch point. So at this point, all content can be top of funnel, right? It's not funnel aligned into these very rigid phases. It's this fluid, seamless, engaging journey that the audience can self-design. So I hope this resonates with you. I hope you're excited to build the playground. And of course, if you are curious when you are ready to start building, how you can do that, I'd love to share with you about how some of Atlassian's products like Jira Work Management, Trello, and Confluence can help you do that. So I will open it up for questions.
All right, that was awesome. Thank you, Ashley. I got a bunch of questions, but everybody else, ask your questions in the Q&A widget, and we'll address them now. So first off, top of mind, do you ever get pushback from performance marketers who are like, I want to see that like last click, direct response, like conversion? Or
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So one thing that's interesting, I think that the playground mindset still works even with performance marketing, because again, what that experience is, if somebody clicks on an ad, they land on a landing page. I see this a lot where it's a standalone landing page and it's only meant for conversion, basically to, demo or contact sales. That to me is a hard landing. Like, I might have accidentally clicked on this ad, right? You're telling me that the only journey I can go on is a purchase journey, and I may not be ready for that. So you tend to see high bounce rates on those pages. What if you just add an additional link that's like, or read an article? Now you're telling me that I can stay with the company on the site, which is still measurable. So it gets at that direct response, performance, conversion, attribution piece, but it gives the audience an opportunity to either go down a buying path or go down a learning path.
Nice. That makes me think of your content pairing idea as well. And one question that I had there, because I love the idea of giving options, like and allowing the prospect or customer to take the journey that they choose. But how do you know what other options to give them? Like, how do you know whether that should be an article or it should be a video or a freemium account, or like there's so many options you could potentially give in that landing page example? Like, is there a research process or is it a hypothesis?
Yeah. So there's two things. Yes, there is a research process. And so talking with customers, understanding what questions they have, understanding where they get stuck, understanding what led them to come to that page in the first place. What were they searching for from an SEO perspective, or what enticed them to click on that ad? So that's the first piece. The second piece, from a tactical perspective, don't bait and switch. You're not tricking anyone into buying anything. So give very explicit CTAs. If instead of, I dislike the CTA, learn more. What am I learning? Am I reading something? Am I learning more about the product? am I supposed to buy something? Am I learning how to buy? Like, I'm unclear what I'm supposed to do versus read an article about this topic or watch a video about this product. And that way I know, okay, this is more of a buying or using or product focused content, or this is more of a topic focused thought leadership industry type of content. So me personally, I think if you have explicit CTAs, it's less concerning. Do they need this specific asset type, and more which journey do they want to go down? Do they want to go down a buying journey, a using journey, a learning only journey? Make that very explicit and don't try to bait and switch them.
Nice. Yeah, I agree with that. I think the learn more CTA is a trigger point for copywriters everywhere. To flip your statement on its head, you mentioned that all content can be top of funnel content. Does that also mean that all top of funnel content could be bottom funnel content too?
I think so. Yeah. I think that people frequently, so another example that I give of this, bottom of funnel content becoming top of funnel content. For example, at Atlassian, our documentation is available publicly. And so it frequently shows up in the SEO results, on search results, because it is very well matched, right? How to configure a board in Jira is a very specific search term. And so we've got documentation that would surface. You could be trying to figure out how difficult it is to roll out our product. If, for example, you were going to make a switch from a competitor into our product, you may want to understand how hard is it going to be to do that? How hard is the adoption? How hard is the onboarding before you even get into considering, pricing or something like that, right? So I think that, yes, traditionally top of funnel content can come in at the bottom of funnel as well. I see this a lot with thought leadership, where late in longer buying cycles, particularly at an enterprise level, somebody gets added at the last minute. Oh, shoot, we forgot to bring in the program manager or the finance person or procurement, right? And so they may have questions around, is this company trustworthy? Are they compliant? What is their security protocols, those types of things. And so thought leadership content or trends content or research content that they've shared may actually get shared later in the process with those higher level or further removed stakeholders. So those are two examples of, swapping bottom of funnel to top of funnel, and then top of funnel coming in later in kind of the bottom of funnel process.
Yeah, as a broad theme, I've found that timing is so important in B2B marketing and sales, and it's very hard to predict where somebody is in their lives and their journey. And sometimes it's like they see something top of funnel, ostensibly top of funnel or thought leadership, and they're ready. And other times what you think is bottom funnel is like really the start of the process, and it's really hard to predict where they are. I got a complex question for you. Attribution is I don't know, murky waters, but like, so each of these channels and platforms, I can see how you would use the metrics associated with success on, say, LinkedIn, or on, say, your blog. But have you found it to be a struggle with currently available analytics tools and attribution models when employing this content playground framework? It seems to me that most of them are set up to be very simplistic, last click, or at least linear in how they're set up when you're looking at multiple different channels together in the same kind of analytics tool.
Yeah, so I agree with you. The best I've seen is when you can use a multi-touch attribution model where you can at least see all of the different touch points that contributed. I do agree, though, that right now most of the attribution is set up to be either first touch or last touch. I think there's some really interesting conversations happening around self-reported attribution versus basically software reported attribution. And I think somebody who's an expert on this that I would refer folks to go look at is a gal named Laura Erdem. She is from Dream Data, and she talks a lot about this, where you look at all the touch points in the journey to start to understand which ones are important. But you don't use that as a way to basically shame or credit. And I think that's the other problem. The attribution conversation, yes, we need to understand which types of content end up leading to the most signups or end up leading to the most purchases. But I come from a SaaS background. And so in my context, we have to keep winning and re-winning the hearts, minds, and wallets of our audience. And so when we talk about something like a sign up, we have free products. So what brings in the most signups versus what results in the most paid conversions are different. And somebody could start immediately in a paid plan. They could sign up for a free version and never convert to paid. And so we have to balance those things. And I think that's the problem, is it's not just about the attribution software or getting the data. It's about the actions you take based on the data that you have. And I think right now it's basically like the MQL conversation is a way for sales to blame marketing for not hitting their quota. And or for different teams to point and be like, oh, the blog is the best, or oh, YouTube is the best. And it's like, okay, that's the best is different depending on what behavior you're trying to drive.
Yeah, I think you have to be very careful what you incentivize, because it's like if we at our agency were just looking at like meetings booked or leads, like we could rank for articles that are like best article writing services or something like that. But like the leads are going to be probably not great versus something a little less measurable, like getting on somebody else's podcast or posting thought leadership on LinkedIn, which is eminently less trackable.
Yeah.
But if we only incentivize the former, like we would never do the latter.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too, because for example, I presented at something like this, right? And frequently when I do these things, people will reach out to connect to me on LinkedIn and they'll say, oh, I saw you on, I attended the Omniscient office hours and thanks so much for presenting. I'd love to talk to you about whatever. And that's always a little bit of a gray area for me, right? Like, are they trying to sell me something? Do they think I'm going to try to sell them something? Do they just want to pick my brain about trying to get a job or how I got invited to come talk? Like, I don't know what they want. So I usually try to suss that out, right? But I ended up kind of getting bamboozled into a sales call because I didn't parse it as a sales call. That person is probably now putting in their CRM, yes, had an excellent call with Atlassian and, spoke for 30 minutes. And now we're going back and forth on email. I'm not buying. And I told them that. I'm like, I'm actually the wrong person. I don't make these decisions. I don't have budget. I'm not, the answer is no. But if you look in the CRM, they are probably telling a different story, right? To your point about incentivizing. So if you incentivize meetings booked, that is a very different conversation than, a BANT qualified lead, right? And I know even the conversations about BANT, budget, authority, need, and timeline, have shifted. I think that I'm maybe out of date even on my knowledge of like what sales reps are qualling people with, because I think it's still BANT. But
right, yeah, it's a tough problem to pick the right metrics. On an operational level, how often do you do content planning and research for the Content Playground framework, and how often do you reevaluate your campaigns and iterate on your roadmap moving forward? Seems like a lot of it is somewhat agile.
I think this is going to vary. Yeah, I think this varies a lot based on the team size, the market, those kinds of things. So we usually do quarterly planning. So we make sure that we've got enough structure to actually be able to efficiently use our resources, but that we're not so locked in. Like, I think annual planning doesn't really work because the market changes too fast. Your audience needs change too fast. So for us, quarterly planning tends to be the right amount of structure from like a cadence standpoint. But then we also do take a look at, in our case, churn reports to see, if customers are churning to different competitors, why? Who are they churning to? What are those competitors doing differently that maybe we could learn from? Or may actually be a gap that we haven't effectively addressed in our content to say, actually, hey, we're, superior in this job to be done or in this use case. So we do also pivot based on research and insights. If we have a new product that's launching, obviously that'll require a significant push on content to just get the foundations, user guides, articles, videos, etc., about the topic and the product. So, but we do try to roll those into our quarterly plans. So if we know a product is going to be going generally available and becoming having a bigger market push, we'll try to take a quarter where we focus on getting them their foundational content.
Awesome. That makes sense. All right. Last call for questions. Otherwise, thank you very much, Ashley.
Yeah, this is fun.
All right. Well, I'll start doing the closing remarks, which basically Carissa put a link to a survey in the chat, as well as a link to Atlassian you can check out. And the only announcement I have is our next office hours is with Sean Blanda, the VP of Content at Crossbeam. The workshop is going to be on scaling a content machine. So once you're past the foundations, how do you go to that next level? And Carissa just popped a link into the chat for that as well. And yeah, if there's no more questions, thank you, everybody. And thank you, Ashley. This was phenomenal.